Welcome!
When it comes to Tokusatsu, while I do enjoy the big three of Toku, I always love coming across a lesser known series that never really went on to become a big franchise, as it always feels like a surprise and not knowing what to expect out of them. Choko Senshi Changeron, or Super Shining Soldier Changeron, is one such Tokusatsu series. One I got really interested in, as it was a series Toei did in the late 90s that Sega helped produce. Yes, that Sega. Sega previously helped Toei with the Mechanical Violator Hokkaido movie, which if you don't know, kicks ass, in which Sega made a pretty successful game that sort of worked as a sequel to the movie itself. So Sega helped with Changeron, and while merch and a game for Sega's edutainment console, the Sega Pico, not much else was made for this series for reasons we'll get into later. But with that, let's get into what this series is all about. Monsters from the dark dimension known as Darkseid have come to our dimension to wreak havoc, humanity's only defense against them being the secret group known as Psyduck, who have created a weapon perfect for fighting against them, being the Chan Visor, which through crystal power allows the user to change into the shining soldier, Changeron. While Psyduck already had a perfect candidate in mind to be Changeron, Katsuhiko Hayami, a super straight-laced and disciplined man, but under some circumstances the Chan Visor lands in the lap of Suzumura Akira, a private investigator who spends most of his days lazing around, flirting, and avoiding paying rent, which becomes a whole wild plotline later down the line of the series. Overall, Akira is not exactly the guy you'd expect or want saving the world from evil. Not wanting to give the Chan Visor back to Psyduck, since he just digs how cool he looks as a superhero, Akira agrees to help Psyduck fight Darkseid, as thankfully a lot of the cases he takes on are usually somehow connected to Darkseid chaos. Now Changeron was a really pleasant surprise, as originally I thought I was going in for a fun, if not maybe a bit standard Monster of the Week type series, which I honestly do not mind, so as long as each episode is fun, which is definitely the case for Changeron. But I quickly found out that this series had a good amount of callbacks to characters and scenes from previous episodes, along with mini story arcs, which made binging the series a lot easier. The series itself is absolutely wild at times, with episodes where Akira gets taken into Darkseid Court for not paying his rent. Yeah, that actually happens. Coming across a Darkseid Changeron fanboy who winds up being so disappointed by Akira's lack of being a competent superhero, he decides to educate him himself. Then there's another episode where Akira just decides not to fight the monster of the episode and calls in the various women he's flirted with in previous episodes to come help him like supports from an RPG game. Then there's the episode where Akira decides to run for mayor of Tokyo against a Darkseid knight. Which, like, Akira, my dude, what are you expecting to get out of that? You're barely qualified to be a private investigator, much less a mayor. Then again, looking at the world sometimes, maybe there could have been a chance there. And hey, at least at the end of the day, he's a transforming superhero, so that's bonus points, right? Anyways, as you can see, Changeron can be pretty wacky at times, and it's super enjoyable for it. A lot of the wackiness of the series also comes from its cast of characters, who are all fun in their own way. While Akira is energetic and even charismatic at times, he's still the complete opposite of what you'd expect for someone that transforms into a super shining soldier, as he's lazy, juvenile, and is always looking for a way to make a quick buck or some kind of shortcut. There's an episode later on where he has to go against two tough guys, and after being unable to beat them on his own, he just decides to set them up and have them take each other out. Despite this, deep down in Akira lies a true heart of a hero. At the end of the day, Akira will do what's right, even if it means not being paid or putting himself in danger. Though at times it seems like he doesn't take certain lessons he learns from episodes to heart, as sometimes we'll have episodes pretty late into the series where he just is kind of a selfish asshole, which can be pretty disappointing considering everything he goes through during the series, but regardless, he's still a really fun main character for the show. Complementing Akira is Hayami, who was supposed to be the original Changeron, and the dude is super straight-laced. Almost everything he does in life is by the book, making him the polar opposite of Akira, leading them to butt heads often. Despite that, slowly throughout the series, they sort of form a mutual respect for each other, even if they don't show it all the time, forming the true heart of the series, with the bond they build together as well as all the hilarious hijinks they get into. As on top of a hero duo, they work amazingly well as a comedy duo. While the other characters in Changeron don't get quite as much spotlight as Akira and Hayami, they still have some great moments to offer, like Akemi, Akira's assistant who tries her best to keep him on the right track, and Eri, another member of Psyduck, who out of all the characters in the series seems like she's the one that has her act together the most. Both of them get their time to shine and have interesting developments down the line, one more so than the other, which I won't get into due to spoilers. However, one other notable character would be the Dark Knight Gowser, an elite dark side warrior who is probably even more intimidating and cunning than the dark side generals themselves. Not only do the best and most intense episodes of the series feature him, he also has this awesome but kinda stupid quirk of spouting out random facts before he begins a fight. Like, yeah, let me educate you before I beat your ass. Also, he has his own evil transformation scene, which is really cool. And speaking of which, let's talk about the Tokusatsu element of this Tokusatsu. The dark side come in all shapes and sizes, and while some can be really abstract or silly, there's a good handful of them that are totally menacing, especially a lot of the elite dark side. Changeron looks incredible. I love heavy armor type suits in my Tokusatsu, and Changeron hits the spot perfectly with its bulky crystal aesthetic. Also, Changeron is just armed to the teeth with weapons. He has a sword, gun, claw, as well as his finisher, the shiny attack, as well as later on getting 3 robot assistants. And while I do love my robo buddies in Tokusatsu, I feel it's a little overkill here considering how much Changeron has in his arsenal. They aren't even used that often, to the point the series kind of forces their use by having them combine and take down these dark side portals that appear in the later half of the series. As much as I love them, they just kind of come across as an afterthought to sell more toys, which sure, that's the purpose of these Tokusatsu shows, but the utilization of them could have been done way better, especially when considering that later on Changeron gets his own sort of sidekick, being the Blader, a comically over-the-top and buff superhero who, despite the name, uses no blades. However, while the series is full of fun and high energy, very much like the monsters here, Changeron has a dark side of its own, as it could provide a great amount of tension and bleakness when it wants. With some cool but horrific dark side monsters, close battles, occasionally pretty dark humor, as well as episodes near the end of the series that were crazy intense, featuring moments that legit made my jaw drop. The slightly darker and more serious moments of the series started to give me a familiar feeling, to which I discovered that the series was written by Toshiki Inoue, which, depending on who you are in the Tokusatsu community, is either a name you love or hate. Inoue is a writer who has a long career in anime and tokusatsu, and is mostly criticized for his inclusion of melodrama and edginess in his Toku series, along with not having the best track record in writing endings. However, I'm in the camp that rather likes his work. Jetman is one of my favorite Super Sentai series, and I actually did like the ending to it, and Kamen Rider Faiz, while littered with problems, is a very unique and interesting Toku show that I really did enjoy. As an older Toku fan, I enjoy the drama he injects into the series, and while I don't need all of my Toku to be edgy, as part of the charm for me originally getting into Tokusatsu was its lack of focus on being dark, I still do enjoy Inoue's darker works, as at least in the realm of Tokusatsu, it gives his series a unique flavor. Changeron for the most part isn't as dark as Jetman or Faiz. However, it does have a totally wild ending, but I don't think it's completely Inoue's fault, as due to low ratings, Changeron was cut short, going from being around 50 episodes planned to 39, which led to a pretty bizarre final episode. I won't spoil it, but it feels out of nowhere, especially considering the episode before it. However, I don't think it's enough to ruin the series. In fact, I feel it kinda adds to the unique charm of the show, as this strange, almost underground Toku show from the 90s. There was a planned sequel in Gaia Polon, which features a really cool suit, However, that unfortunately never came to be. Luckily though, Changeron would later build a cult status as the years went on, and as we've seen throughout this video, for good reasons. So if you're looking for an interesting tokusatsu experience, I would highly recommend Changeron. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked it and want to consider supporting me and the channel, then feel free to check out my Patreon or Ko-fi page. As always, I'm Mr. FalconPunch. Stay safe and peace out.